All right, now let's talk about the HyperStat. So the HyperStat looks a lot like the HyperLite if you've been using the HyperStat split or you've watched that video already. But the HyperStat is more of a conventional smart thermostat with the mesh network built in. So again, it's got your touch slider for up and down. It's got my 3 dynamic buttons over here. Those change depending on what screen I'm in. But anywhere you're going to have a rooftop unit, air handler, split system, even PTACs can use this, water source heat pumps, 2-pipe fan coils. Anywhere you have a traditional thermostat, you're going to have one of these. So what comes in the box is the HyperStat itself, the Vanity plate, which can go behind it to cover up the whole of any junction box, because the back of this isn't quite big enough to cover up if we cut that hole a little bit big. So you've got that, and then I've got a packet with a couple of screws that can allow me to mount to that junction box, a couple of rubber pieces that I can stick in to cover up the programming switches and connectors. And in here there's also a couple of set screws that can go on the top and bottom for locking the stat so that people can't pull it off. Not that we really have that problem. People are used to not touching their thermostat. With that, let's go ahead and show you how this thing mounts. It's pretty much the same as the HyperLite if you've already watched that. But we'll come over to this camera. So when you're mounting this thing, it's got all the integrated sensors on board: temp, humidity, occupancy, CO2, sound and light level sensors. But the first thing you have to do is you need to pull the front and the back away from each other. So you put your 2 fingers in one side and pull apart. You're not going to break it, even though it might feel that way the first time you do it. You pull apart, all the tabs come apart, and then I get the backboard, which has all my thermostat connections and my inputs and outputs. And then I have the front board, which is the face of the stat. This face is identical as HyperLite's, so if for any reason you're on the site and you pull them all apart and you go mount all your backboards, and I've got some that look like this and some that look like a HyperLite, don't worry about it. This will automatically detect which backboard it's connected to. On the back here, again, it's got the little box that connects to my pins. And if I do add the optional PM2.5 sensor, there's a slot right here with a tiny little Molex connector that I would plug in. There's nothing you need to program. It would recognize that you plug that in. To actually mount this thing, it's fairly straightforward. There's 2 vertical holes and 2 horizontal holes. Those holes are the size of a single gang junction box, so if you've roughed it in, you can connect your screws directly to that junction box, vertically or horizontally. If you don't have a junction box, you can provide your own wall anchors and mount it that way as well. So that's as much as there is to mounting. When it comes to wiring, again, these are poke-in style connectors, just like all of the connectors here. What you'll see is the little slot. If you have solid core wire, you should be able to insert your wire and just poke it in, and it would become secure. If you have stranded wire, sometimes that's tricky, and you might need to press down on this. If you press down on the buttons, then it releases the spring, and it makes it easier to insert smaller gauge wire or stranded wire that otherwise might mush up in there. So on the left side over here, I've got my electromechanical relays. So there's 6 relays on here that can be configured. By default, it's going to act like a normal thermostat or a water source heat pump, depending on the application I set it up with. On the bottom, I've got an RTS port. That's my sensor bus port. So if I'm going to daisy chain, I can average temperatures from multiple sensors back to here. Then I've got 3 analog outputs, 1 on the left side, 2 on the right side. Then I've got 2 analog inputs for things like current transformers or other sensors, and then I've got 2 thermistor inputs which can be used for my supply air temperature, return air temperature, or things like that. At the very top, I've got a RS-45 port, so if I do want to use this on an existing Modbus or BACnet trunk, I can do that. We won't talk much about that in this course. So once you get this wired up according to your application, sorry, one more thing that I wanted to cover. There's a jumper here. So if by default your RC and RH are going to be connected, so if I power one, they both become hot. If I want to isolate them, the jumper is just above the RC terminal at the top. Okay. Once I get it wired up according to my application, all I need to do is put the face back on the backboard. And to do that, I line up that box and the black box. And when I press, I always press in the bottom left first, and then I go around the perimeter like so until I get a nice smooth line all the way around, ensuring I get a nice clean finish. And then my screen would light up if there's power. If there's not power, it won't. And then to finish the install, there's this yellow tab here. You always want to peel that off. And behind here, there's often also some plastic film that you might want to peel off to give it a really nice clean look. The only thing I didn't talk about is the vanity plate, but it's pretty self-explanatory. If I need to use it, I just put it in between the back and the wall when I mount it, and it gives me a nice clean ring around the stat. So with that, that is the HyperStat installation and wiring.